Vintage cars, what are they? And what can you do with them? They aren't exactly a daily driver. A vintage car is any car made before 1930, whilst post-vintage is anything up to 1945. Some people use them to go out for a Sunday drive, or more often than not, they end up gathering dust as a sculpture of mechanical art from yesteryear. There is another option, however, car clubs. They provide the opportunity to get the most from your quirky cars. Join me as I explore the Vintage Sports Car Club, speaking to some of their members, volunteers and employees to understand why so many people cherish vintage and what makes this community so special. In October 1934, a letter in the Light car proposed forming a club for early sports car owners, particularly those with vehicles built before 1931. Tom Rolt, inspired by this idea, along with friends John Passini and Tim Carson, met with the letter's authors at the Phoenix Inn to discuss the concept. This meeting led to the establishment of the VSCC, Vintage Sports Car Club. The VSCC held its first committee meeting in October 1934, and the inaugural club meeting in February 1935. Initially named the Veteran Sports Car Club, it was soon renamed to avoid confusion with the Veteran Car Club. What followed was 89 years of vintage racing, rallying and touring across the UK. Until February 2024, when they moved from an old post office in Chipping Norton to a more modern and larger facility at Hockley Heath. I sat down with the club's secretary to learn more about the VSCC mission and better understand the people behind the club upkeep.
My name is Tanya Brown and I am club secretary for the Vintage Sports Car Club. My journey to club secretary has been quite long. I've been a member of the club since October 1992 when my grandparents purchased a membership for my 13th birthday. I had actually started marshalling for the club when I was 10 years old. Running grid sheets at race meetings when the then club secretary pointed out that I could get £2 pocket money for doing so, which seemed like a good idea because I was at race meetings anyway. As I grew up, I then went on to run assembly areas and do lots of marshalling. I did lots of marshalling on the start line. Eventually, I became a club director in 2013. I was club director until when COVID hit and the previous club secretary left, at which point interviews were being carried out. And I jokingly suggested to the then president that I'd throw my hat into the ring for consideration. And he said, do it. So I did, and here I am. The VSCC is very much a family. It has always been a wonderful social element as well as using cars. So for me, very much, particularly because I grew up in it, it was a second family for me. I came from what in the old days was called a broken home. My parents divorced, so it was quite a trying time, and I came to this event. Back in those days, I lived near Cadwell Park as well, and I used to go to a lot of other club meetings there. The VSCC was the only club at the time that you walked into as a teenage girl where you weren't treated differently for being young and for being female. And this is going back to the 90s, so that was a huge thing at that point. So for me, the VSCC has always been a safe space, if you like. It's somewhere where we can all have fun together, and we just happen to do it with these fabulous old cars. And for me, the VSCC is also very much about making sure these cars continue to be used, to be enjoyed, and they're preserved through use. Because there's always people who say these cars should be in museums. They weren't built for that. They were never built for that. They were built to be used. They were built to be enjoyed, and that's what we're doing. And by using them, we are actually preserving them. There's a multi-billion-pound industry around vintage and historic motorsport, and we play a not insignificant part in that. So from the slightly more non-competitive side, we have a tour programme that's been reinvigorated over the last few years by Brian Akett, one of our volunteers. So there are a number of tours nationwide that people can go and do. That is literally just a route book. given to you at the start of the day that you follow. You can go along and do it with your mates. You don't need anything special for that. But if you have a slightly more competitive bent, then you can go through driving tests, rallies, hill climbs, sprints, race meetings, driving tests and auto solos. So literally anything you want to do with your car, you can pretty much do with us. We run over 40 what's called permitted events a year, permitted by the governing body Motorsport UK. We do a broader range of events than any other car club in the country for historic cars. So you can literally have fun in your car doing pretty much anything. We had a 2-day meeting at Silverstone earlier this year, which was an absolutely fabulous event. But my highlight there was the Hesketh running around. The Lindsay family are well associated with both VSCC and ERAs, English Racing Automobiles, but they were also related in some fashion to Lord Hesketh. So they are involved in that scene. Valentine Lindsay wanted to bring the Hesketh along because it was the closest event to the 50th anniversary of James Hunt winning the Silverstone International Trophy in 1974. So that came along, and that was actually really, really special. And it just shows for me that the club isn't just about old cars. We actually just really like anything with an engine, and having that going around and then being able to watch a bunch of Fraser Nashes doing a parade and then 50 sports cars going around, as well as all of our usual stuff, it just felt like a particularly special meeting that really showcased everything that we did, and it sounded fantastic. As a girl, motorsport was not generally a welcoming place. The VSCC was. It's always provided a home for like-minded individuals. That is its strength, and that's allowed it to, survive the Second World War, the fuel crisis, foot and mouth, which really badly affected us, financial disasters. We've weathered all of that partly because we do have higher net worth individuals who can weather that some of those things a little bit better. But also it does come down to that fun and friends. And even during COVID, when we couldn't put loads of events on, there was a really good atmosphere amongst members. And I think that's what allows it to thrive and survive and still brings new members into the club. The 90th anniversary celebrations are going to be quite something. I don't think there's many clubs that are running for 14 permitted events in 6 days. We are all slightly hysterical at the moment because it is an awful lot of hard work, but it is hard work that will pay off at the end of the week. So again, in the way that our normal breadth of events over a course of a year will give people a chance to do anything they want in their cars, we've taken that and condensed it down to a week. But there's an awful lot more that's actually just about bringing people together. We've got the Concours, we've got a cycle car gymkhana. It's just allowing us to do some of the mad things that we don't always get to do under the pressure of a normal race meeting, and it's going to be great fun. So the VSCC for me is fun, it's friendship, it's a community that absolutely has a passion for engineering, cars and having fun. That's it.
Have you ever seen an unusual car drive down the road and wonder what kind of person would own that? Well, I went to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, one of the most exhilarating and renowned automotive events in the world, to speak to some of the vintage car custodians of the VSCC.
My name's Duncan, and this is the beast that you're in. Which is a bit like being the owner of a famous pet dog, because everybody knows the name of the car, but they only know me by association with the name of the car. It was the end of an era when to go fast you put a big engine in. If you want to go fast you put a bigger engine in. So Fiat and Benz had a sort of small boys pissing up the wall competition. Can I say pissing? Oh, well, I've said it now. There was no Grand Prix in 1908 because the Germans won it, so the French didn't do it again. So in 9, 10, 11 there were no rules as such, no structure. So Benz, with the Blitzen Benz, produced a 21-litre car in 1909 and got loads of publicity and they got loads of records. And basically Fiat thought we could do better than that, so they took their S74, 14 and a quarter litre, and doubled the engine size to 28.5, and they went for all the records and the publicity that Benz had got the year before. The significant thing is that it was the end of the era, because the whole idea, it's not unsophisticated, but the concept of putting a bigger engine in to go faster, it was the last of the line. And the L76 Peugeot that came out in 1912 transformed the world of motor racing. And there was a sea change from going bigger and bigger engines to smaller, high revving, 16 valve, twin overhead cam engines. And so this was the last of the big Edwardian monsters.
Next up is Mark Walker with something very different.
Here we are with the Dirac, which is a land speed record car made in 1905, so it's nearly 120 years old, built to do 1 flying kilometre nearly 120 years ago. And here it is, a great sprint car, road car, racing car. What's not to like? 25.4 litres, 1,000 kilos, 300 brake horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, no brakes. Good.
Next up, Donington Park. I went to speak to Ollie Leston. Ollie is a 29-year-old young chap from Kent. His passion for the VSCC took form in his Instagram page, Les Leston Today.
My name's Ollie Leston. I got involved with the VSCC through my dad. I grew up watching him race in the club, and I was hooked, completely hooked from then on in. And it's my passion, it's my hobby, and to be honest, I can't really imagine a life without the VSCC. Obviously, my dad being into it from the get-go was definitely the first sort of experience I got with it. But it's just like the noise and the quirkiness of the cars, you know. So many sort of modern racing cars, you can't sort of see what's going on inside the bonnet and things like that. You know, they're much more quiet. These things, they're spitting flames. You've got exhausts, massive exhaust coming out the side. You can see the parts moving and everything. And they're just wacky. They're quirky. You know, you pull into a petrol station, everybody's heads turn. And it's just that whole atmosphere surrounding them, really. Basically, growing up around these cars was like, obviously, it was quite normal for me. But every time I sort of showed them to other people, their reactions, much like when you go into that petrol station, was like, it blows people's minds. So I knew that we had something that was really, really special that actually I thought not enough people knew about. And in the process of reviving my grandfather's brand, I wanted to do it in a way that was really relevant in my life and beneficial, I hope, beneficial to the VSCC, because I think more people do need to know about how special this place is. You know, it's a community. You know, with the vintage cars, not only can you race around the country with vintage cars, you know, a lot of people are driving their cars to the events. And the community that surrounds the VSCC, not just about the hill climbs, the rallies, you know, the tours and the trials. A lot of us are going on like vintage tours through the countryside into Europe. You know, people go skiing and what have you. There's like, it's just, if you have a car, the opportunities that are presented to you are just vast. And it's just magic.
Now to the VSCC HQ to hear from not only a competitor, but a volunteer as well.
My name's Sue Derbyshire. I'm a volunteer librarian. Fairly recent thing, couple of years now. Absolutely loving it, love the library team, and I've been a member of the VSCC for maybe 25 years, something like that. My competition car is a Morgan three-wheeler. I love it to bits. Morgans are slightly unique. They have a character. I know a lot of people say that about their cars, but my Morgan definitely has. It's as I said, it's been horrible to me this season, but I don't know why. I don't know what I've done to upset it. But they're just great fun to drive. We always reckon if you keep the front pointed in the right direction, the back will follow. So you spend quite a bit of the time not going completely forward all of the time. It just feels lovely. It's lovely. They're a joy to drive. This season has been very much uphill. We've had a lot of breakages for no reason, but I suppose the highlight so far is finishing on the podium in the 50-minute race at Donington. That was lovely to actually get it through 50 minutes. Really pleased with that. Car wasn't right, but we managed to get it there. For me, the VSCC is a wonderful community of like-minded people with an absolutely amazing selection of cars. The competition is fierce, and yet on the whole, I've never felt unsafe in a race with the VSCC. I always feel like everybody is driving within their own abilities, and yeah, it means a lot. It's lovely to be able to go out there, have really good close racing with a huge range of different cars, and yet everybody's of a similar speed that you're racing against there. And we're a great bunch of mates before and after. So that's, for me, that says it all. And you know, I get treated as an equal, not as a woman who happens to drive a car. So for me, that's everything. I love it.
Vintage Prescott is a real jewel in the crown for the VSCC. It's been the biggest event we run each year for decades. It's where everyone gets to come along, join in together. There is a perfectly good competitive hill climb going on, which in and of itself would be absolutely fine. But aside from that, you've then got the auto jumble, and the Orchard car park is probably the best open air display of cars in the country for historic vehicles, because we have all of the pre-war cars in the Orchard. It's absolutely jam-packed. Lots of friends be sat having picnics, talking. They might only see each other once a year at Prescott, and it lends it just a really special atmosphere. So in a normal year, it's a brilliant event. In our 90th year, it's what we do on steroids.
There you have it, a glimpse into the world of the VSCC, and it is indeed a world, home to such a variety of characters with unique stories. It builds a portfolio of culture you can't find anywhere else. There is so much that happens behind the scenes that wasn't even mentioned, such as the marshals and race organisers that make all of this possible, as well as the staff members that work longer hours than most to get the job done. But this further shows the strength and community this organisation has. It is a club where women don't only feel safe but thrive, with competitors and senior members of staff, something surprising when the club formed in a very different time. It is a club that encourages the upkeep of historical cars, keeping our automotive legacy alive and running. It is a club that, despite the word vintage, is home to many young members that enjoy the sounds and sights that you can't get from a modern-day commuter car. The VSCC is a club for like-minded folk that have a passion for cars, engineering, and having fun.